This is either the best video concept I've ever had or the worst. There is no in between here. Ayo, what's good, reader fam? Today starts the journey of reading a book backwards. I went to my local library, picked up a book. I didn't want to buy a book for this project, and I also wanted to pick up a book that I knew nothing about. I want to go into this book knowing absolutely nothing. Nada. I want to start out as strangers and then develop a friendship with this book. The book I picked out is The 1 in a Million Boy by Monica Wood. I know nothing about this book. This book and I are complete strangers. Also, this book cover tells me nothing. In fact, this book cover is very confusing. We've got strings going from tree to tree and we've got these birdhouses hanging off of them. But then we've got a boy riding on a string with his bike. I'm thinking that's not a very safe thing to ride your bike on. Just saying. So I'm going to be reading this book backwards. I'm going to start from the end of the book and work my way to the beginning. You might be wondering, why? And to that I say, give me a C. Give me a U. Give me an R-I-O-S-I-T-Y. And what does that spell? Curiosity. Hopefully I didn't spell that out incorrectly though. I've always wondered what it would be like to start from the end and move my way forward and what that process is like. Can a book still be enjoyable being read this way? It's a mystery. Will it confuse the heck out of me? Most likely. Will it change the way I read books in the future? Probably not. But the need to try this has been hollering at me for a while, so I'm gonna listen to my needy hollers and give in. I'm gonna be documenting the process of reading this book, and I'm gonna bring you guys along on this wild journey. Let's get started. In case you're wondering, my dog is on my bed, so that's why there's a dog paw right there. I'm getting ready to start this, and it feels weird that I'm not starting from this side and I'm starting from this side. It honestly feels like I'm committing a reader sin here. It feels so bad, and yet it feels so good. They say I did something bad. Dab. Why's it feel so good? Dab, dab. We love a good dab up in here. Okay, let's do this. It feels so strange starting from the end, but here we go. Chapter 26. We're starting with chapter 26 and working our way down here. Okay, I'm 2 chapters in from the ending, and I will admit that I'm a little bit on the lost side right now. There are all these lists that keep popping up that make no sense to me at all. I'm sure there's some kind of importance to the list, but not knowing that importance is driving me crazy. I also have this urge to skip the lists every time they pop up because I just don't care about them. I probably would care if I knew why they were there, but I don't know why they're there yet, so they're driving me crazy. So that's one negative so far. I'm also a little confused about the characters, but at the same time, it's kind of similar to reading a book from beginning to end. You have that kind of awkward stage where you don't really know the characters yet. So I'm still going through the process of getting to know the characters. It's just obviously very different. When you start a book, the author is setting up these characters. So when you start from the end, you don't have that setup. At the end, you're starting with them being fully established, and then you're kind of unraveling who they are. Let's carry on. I almost went to start adding my progress for this book on Goodreads, but then I realized it's probably not the best idea because people will think I've lost my mind. Which maybe I have. I'm reading a book backwards, for crying out loud. Not the most normal thing to do. I've gotten a lot deeper into this book and things are getting a lot better. Like, this book is not that difficult to read backwards. I have a better understanding as to what the characters are involved in, even though it is all just kind of based on assumption at this point. I don't have solid proof for what I think is happening, but I'm pretty sure I know what's happening. It's all just kind of up in the air right now. But I still think I know what's happening. I'm also liking the characters a lot more now. When I first started reading this, it was a struggle. I didn't have that character development stage that I needed. But as I've powered on and the more that I've read about them, the more details I get about them, and the more I've kind of come to an understanding as to who they are. I obviously don't fully know them yet, and there's still quite a few things surrounding them that I don't fully get, but I'm getting there. I would almost compare learning about the characters in this book to when you first meet someone and they tell you all these dramatic things about their life, and it's like, slow down, Nancy, we just met. I just learned your name 5 minutes ago. I'm not ready to know all these things about you yet. I keep avoiding reading this book in public because I don't want to be judged by people. I'm afraid people are gonna look at me and be like, oh, that poor boy, he forgot how to read a book correctly. No, I know how to read a book correctly, I promise. Maybe I should just set a sign next to me that says, I know how to read a book correctly, let me be. Nothing to see here, people. I know how to read correctly, okay? It's an experiment, a book experiment, okay? Keep it moving, keep it moving. This is not a museum. Realistically, I know nobody's looking at me or judging me, it's just my insecurities. But I still feel their eyeballs on me. That actually reminds me about a time I read a manga in the wrong way. If you don't know, you read manga from right to left, whereas you normally read a book from left to right. And I was reading it the wrong way because I think I'm so used to reading books from right to left. And I was so confused with the story, like nothing was really making sense. Then it dawned on me that I was reading it in the wrong direction. There's another thing in this book that I don't fully understand yet, and I'm sure that I will at some point, but there's this tape that's being played at the end of certain chapters, and it's a one-sided conversation, but it's like somebody else is supposed to be on the other side of the conversation, we just don't see it. So I am very confused about that. It's like the person is having a conversation with someone, but that other dialogue is cut out. I have no idea what's happening with that, but hopefully I figure that out soon. Let's carry on. We are now in deep, you guys. It's really interesting seeing the aftermath of an event before an event happens. We see the reactions of the characters before we see what they're reacting to, and I find that really fascinating. It does kind of steal a bit of the suspense, but surprisingly, there's still a bit of a suspense element in the way that I'm reading this book. For example, oh, I've been holding this book upside down. No! For example, there's something tragic that happened at the beginning of the story, but I don't know what that thing is yet. So there's kind of a bit of suspense that's leading up to that mystery. Even though I know the outcome of the thing that happened at the beginning, I don't know exactly how it happened. So I'm really interested to learn what's up with that situation. So even though I now kind of understand the situation that the characters are in, I don't fully understand how they all came together and how they kind of came to be and got connected. Like, I don't know the link between them. I feel like it has to do with something that happened at the beginning of the story, but at this point, I'm not clued in. There's this old character in this book that I just can't help but feel bad for. Like, every little small thing that happens to her, I'm just like, I'm just so soft for old people. I can't help it. I think I finally made the connection to the old tapes that are being played where there's this one-sided conversation. I think I know who the old lady is talking to in those tapes, but I still have no idea as to why it's a one-sided conversation and why the other person's dialogue is cut out. Like, what's happening there? What's the mystery there? I need to find out. I could be wrong though. She could just be talking to herself, but I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. We'll see. I finally got to a point where the list makes sense. Holy guacamole. I'm not gonna lie though, the lists still drive me crazy. Each time they pop up, I have the urge to skip it, but I don't because I'm a dedicated reader. Moving on. I did it. I finished reading The 1 in a Million Boy backwards. And holy smokes, let me just say that the beginning of this book is kind of sad. Talk about some major heart wreckage. So the first section of this story is kind of the progression of the characters. We get to know them, which would have been helpful at the end of the story, but that's fine. I chose to read it this way. I knew what I was getting myself into here. It's interesting though because you don't even really get to see that much from the overall main character of the story. Like, the first section is more so focused on the main character's son. We do get to see little bits of the main character in the first section, but he kind of fully takes over the story after the first little section of the story, which is actually something that I want to mention because there was kind of an abrupt switch with the story, and I feel like I wouldn't have liked that if I read this book the correct way. I didn't even like it that much reading it backwards, and at the beginning of the book, the one-sided conversation that we see throughout the story is explained at the beginning of the book, which I kind of figured that would be the case, but I was also kind of nervous that I would get to the beginning of the book and that wouldn't even be explained, but thankfully it was. Ending thoughts here. This was actually a really cool reading experiment. I actually want to try this out with a book that I've read before because I feel like reading it backwards, you see so many different things. You're seeing the story through a completely different lens compared to reading it the normal way. I really liked reading this book and having the page numbers go in descending order. I liked reading this book starting from 320 and working my way all the way down to number 1. I'm gonna make a petition for books to start with how many pages they have and then you have to work your way down. It was kind of nice to be like, oh, I just have 78 pages left, or oh, I just have 34 pages left. Even though you can calculate that when it's going from 1 to 320, but it just takes more time. It's more of a hassle. All in all, this book weirdly lends itself to being read backwards. You're able to fully grasp what's going on and you still have a mystery that you're kind of leading up to because there's a mystery at the beginning of the story. So if you ever want to try this experiment, might I suggest this book? All in all, this was a pretty fun experience. I'm not going to change the way that I read books just because I enjoyed this experience, because I'm somebody who really needs that character growth and I need to kind of find an understanding with the characters to fully enjoy the story. Just in general, characters play a big part in me enjoying a book. But this was still a really interesting experience. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope your day is bright and that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!